Okay, good evening everybody and welcome to the council meeting for November 27th. Call the meeting to order. Council, can we have a motion to adopt the minutes of November 14th? All the special and committee of the whole and regular council, please. Councilor Peak, Councilor Holmes, thank you. All in favor? That carried. Now the approval, 2.2, approval of public hearing reports. The same.
I'll move the
Councilor
motion.
Carlson, thank you. Second, Councilor Barkwell. You're new. Your beard's better than it was. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, any changes to the agenda at all?
There are no changes.
Okay. Adopt the agenda, please. Motion to
It's not
adopt.
included, if I may, Mr. Mayor, the one regarding the, it would be 12.9 cultural.
Yes, that was a late item. It would have been posted on the website late Friday or Saturday, so it may not be in the printed copy that you have.
Yes, I understand. I just wanted to mention them in case there were others that had looked earlier and hadn't looked later.
Thank you.
Okay, seconded, please. Councilor Holmes, thank you. All in favor? Carried, thank you. No public or statutory hearings this evening, so we're moving right into 5.1. Mr. Seelman. We have a special presentation this evening for Mr. Henry Seelman, Canada 150 Award. So, number of things here. Will that come up? They've got me quite a long thing to read. Yes. So I'll read it very slowly.
Take all the time.
In celebration of Canada's 150th birthday, the Senate created limited edition medals to honor citizens who have made extraordinary contributions to their communities. Only 12 medals are being presented in the Thompson-Okanagan-Kootenay region to those nominees selected who have contributed significantly to a healthier community through the promotion of active living, through the development of parks and trails, or through long-term involvement in sports programs. It's my pleasure to present one of the 12 Senate of Canada 150 medals to Summerland's Henry Seelman. Henry has shown outstanding commitment, passion, and dedication towards developing hiking and biking trails in Summerland and the Okanagan Valley. For years, he's been president of the Summerland Trans-Canada Trails Society and also president of the Trails of the Okanagan Society, which have now amalgamated. Henry has played an important role in extending the Furby Grade Trail between Summerland and Beachland, Phase 1 of the Lakeside Pathway connecting Summerland to Penticton, and realignment of the KVR Trans-Canada Trail at Conkle Mountain Park, and development of the trail on the old railway from Okanagan Falls to Penticton and Culleton, just to name a few. He continues to be a strong advocate for trails in the Okanagan. Henry also had a hand in completing a display garden of natural plants at the kiosk at Brown Street, so residents can learn about the natural fauna that may be seen along our local trails. Henry's also volunteered on council committees for years and is an active member of our Climate Action Committee, which works towards the betterment of the environment. If that's not enough, Henry is also instrumental in working with the district to develop outdoor pickleball courts, which are enjoyed by many. It's a great honor it is a great honor to receive this medal. It's my honor to present it to Henry for all his work and efforts in making Summerland a healthier community.
Thanks so much.
So there are several things here. There's a pin that you can
Dawn on special occasions.
There's a special pin there. All right. Okay. For that. And this is the medal. Which is
Oh my
quite the medal.
goodness, look at the size of that thing.
Should have-
None of us have seen this. This is all new to everybody.
Very good. Congratulations. There's also a certificate that comes with it. On behalf of the Senate of Canada, the Speaker of Canada, of the Senate, Speaker of the Senate of Canada, and Max Honorable Senator Nancy Green Rain. Perfect. There you go.
Thanks so much.
That. And anything to go with it all.
Oh, nice.
Thank you very much. And
Much appreciated, Mayor. Thanks so much.
thank you, Henry,
Okay.
for really contributing.
And all the volunteers that helped out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Now on to 5.2, Mr. Bub. Mark, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Waterman and Summerland councillors for the opportunity to bring you up to date on what the Summerland Food Bank and Resource Centre is and does, and how many people and organisations help to keep it alive and active in our community. I'm joined this evening with several members, two members of our board, our Director of Volunteers, Francis Calusi, our Treasurer, Jan Angus. Also joined by our Resource Coordinator, Tara Hollis, and my wife, Carol, representing the 50 or so volunteers that serve the organisation. First, if I can, I'd like to give you a brief tour of our facility. This is Tara Hollis. She's our full-time resource coordinator, who we depend on greatly. This year, Tara's annual salary is being paid partly by a community gaming grant, partly by a donation of $12,000 from Summerland United Church, and partly by a $6,000 grant from the United Way. In the reception area are 3 public computer workstations and 1 color printer funded by the Community Foundation of the South Okanagan. These workstations are heavily used by our clients for internet research, accessing government online services, email, document scanning, resume preparation, and occasional job skills training. Adjacent to the reception area are 2 small offices, one set up as a counseling area and one as a business office. We offer these offices free of charge to any service agency that will meet with Summerland clients in Summerland. We currently have 14 agencies sharing and using these offices, providing services like mental health, child and family counseling, victim assistance, legal assistance, help applying for government services, and many others. None of these services were available in Summerland prior to establishment of the Resource Centre in 2013. We have a small non-commercial kitchen where we can repackage some bulk food items, wash donated vegetables and fruit, or cook an occasional emergency meal. Here is our laundry unit and our accessible washroom and shower, both available for our clients' use. The washroom and laundry facilities were built with funding from the Summerland Rotary Club and the United Church, and Summerland Kinsmen provided the washing machine and dryer unit. Back in our reception area, we have a wheelchair lift, partly financed by Summerland United Church and partly by a grant from the federal government's Enabling Accessibility Fund. Entering the food pickup area of the food bank, on your left side is our walk-in cooler, funded again by the Community Foundation. The cooler allows us to purchase fresh food in bulk and extend the life of produce donated by local growers. The remainder of the food bank area, pickup area, includes shelves of miscellaneous items that clients can choose from. Our pickup area often also contains some pet supplies, toiletries, and our box storage shelves. Next to the pickup area are our ready-use refrigerator and freezer, financed again by the Community Foundation, and 2 older donated fresh chest freezers. Our ready-use refrigerator contains eggs and margarine. Our upright freezer contains meat and frozen packaged meals. 1 chest freezer usually contains bread and bakery products provided by IGA and Nesters, and the second freezer a random mix of whatever doesn't fit anywhere else. And this is our warehouse area. All food that we receive is weighed in, sorted by type and date, and placed on shelves ready to be used to build food hampers. Some items are reserved for distribution at Christmas. Any Summerland resident in need is welcome at the Food Bank and Resource Centre. We attempt to provide unconditional help as best we can. There is no means test. If someone asks for help, then they will receive help to the best of our ability to provide it. I can't say enough in praise of our 8 volunteer board members and over 50 volunteers. These dedicated people contribute more than 1,000 hours of their free time each year, allowing us to provide so much to our community on such a limited budget. So let me move to some numbers. First, a high-level summary of our budgeted income for 2018. Approximately a half of our income comes from individuals, businesses, and churches in our community, shown in dark blue. In decreasing order of magnitude, our grants come from the Provincial Gaming Commission in orange, the District of Summerland through a grant in aid in grey, Summerland United Church in yellow, and the United Way in light blue. Our total revenue for 2018 will be around $117,000. Our expenses break down like this. In decreasing order of magnitude, our major expenses are salaries in dark blue, groceries in orange, voluntary rent and utilities in grey, communications and technology in yellow, office expenses in light blue, insurance in green, and advertising in purple. This chart shows the growth of several of our most important services that we provide other than food. The blue columns represent numbers of services delivered in 2014, the orange columns in 2015, and the grey columns in 2016. The services represented on the chart, reading from left to right, are our most commonly requested services, and they are agency room use, agency client visits, showers, laundry use, and computer use. As you can see, the most dramatic rise in our resource center services has been agency client visits, 490 in the past year. What that means is that our clients are increasingly achieving local access to the services they need, and I believe it's making a huge positive difference in many of their lives. Next, I'd like to highlight our Odd Job program that we introduced last summer. The Odd Job program matches up odd jobs in the community with our low-income clients. We've recently exceeded 100 odd jobs processed, and the statistics look like this. The dark blue bar represents successfully completed jobs. Orange jobs are jobs that are continuing, providing ongoing part-time employment. Grey are jobs in process at the time we did the analysis. Yellow are jobs for which we are seeking an employee. Light blue jobs have been ruled out of scope for the program, and green are jobs that have been cancelled for a variety of reasons. This summer, the Resource Centre hired a summer program coordinator from June to September. Her name was Alison Jakes, and she was so successful in finding odd jobs that we have extended her contract part-time into the fall. We're currently seeking grant funding for the Odd Job program to continue in 2018. So now let's look at the food bank use. The 3 sets of columns are for 2014, 2015, and 2016. For each year, the blue column is the number of adults that receive food, the orange column is the number of children, and the grey column is the number of individual households. The first thing you may notice is the declining trend. This trend goes against provincial and federal trends that typically show a steady increase in food bank use. We're not sure about all the reasons why the trend is declining, but we hope that it is largely due to our combination of agency services and the Odd Job program, helping people to improve their self-sufficiency. Eliminating food bank use entirely is obviously not likely to happen, People will continue to fall into poverty for many reasons, but we have found that a certain percentage of people can be helped into or back into self-sufficiency. Moving now to the future, in 2015 we added low-cost housing to our strategic plan, primarily because housing is one major area in which we can, today anyway, offer very little or no help. We've thus set ourselves the task of trying to advocate for, facilitate, or provide some low-cost housing. This year's housing effort is in partnership with Summerland United Church. As a result of our participation in the District of Summerland's Affordable Housing Study, and following further discussions with Sherry Enns Consulting and Michael John Architectural Design Studio, the Food Bank and Resource Center has agreed to pay for a feasibility study that we hope will see several floors of affordable rental apartments built on the United Church property just across the street from here. You'll be hearing more about this project as we seek your support for a seed funding application to the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. This is not the building we will build, in case you're wondering. It's just a picture, a nice picture that I picked out of off of the internet. Another new program has been established in the past month, thanks to a generous donation from the Fred and Joanne Gartrell family. We call it the Emergency Fund, and we're encouraging other financial donors to consider participating in it. Occasionally, we're confronted with an immediate emergency need, or a need that, if met quickly, will make a major positive difference in a person's life or health. A pair of work boots, a tank of propane in the dead of winter, a head lice kit for a low-income family, a back brace permitting someone to perform some light paid work, all are real-life examples of items that can be provided through such a fund. So in closing, I want to thank you, Mayor Waterman, councillors, and staff for continuing your support of our charity this year with a 2017 grant in aid, letters of support for several of our grant applications, and through your staff's payroll deduction donation plan. We have applied again for a grant in aid for 2018, and with your significant help, we will be able to continue our long legacy of support to the neediest residents of Summerland.
Great, thank you very much, John. Before you go away, any questions from Council Tom, of John? Councillor Holmes.
John, I wonder if you could, you showed us the trends of the use of the food bank, but I was just wondering what the trends are of funding that you've received. Has government funding decreased, increased?
Has government funding decreased or increased, and community donations? So I was just wondering what the trends of that. And also a second part, with the new government, have you heard one way or another if food banks might be getting more or less support?
Okay, first, the funding for us is always a challenge because we have to apply for everything on a year-to-year basis, with the exception of the United Church that made a 5-year commitment to our resource center that expires next year. Our gaming grant has been essentially flat for the past couple of years and has declined from our original application. We originally applied for $35,000 and we're now down to $26,000. Your grant in aid was reduced slightly last year from $15,000 to $14,500. But our local donations from businesses have been gradually increasing, steadily increasing. We're not sure what's going to happen this year. This year is still in process. Our fiscal year end is January 31st. So we will know then whether this year we've seen an increasing trend. But we get strong support from this community, and we very much appreciate that. It provides us with a small surplus each year that we can turn into new services like the housing project and the odd job program and so on. So that's good. And sorry, your second question was, the new government.
Have you heard with the new government any
no,
changes?
we did receive another upright freezer from some government funding through Food Banks BC. But I haven't heard anything about programs that would specifically help a food bank at this point in time. We have seen, I think, an improvement due to the approximately $100 increase in welfare and disability benefits that happened in April of this year. But again, we'll see how that affects our numbers as the year completes.
Anybody else? Oh, Councillor Boot.
I have one question that it's kind of a general question. I'm assuming that the food bank, because of your buying power, that you can stretch a dollar quite a bit further than, say, any of the residents that might donate. And I can certainly understand how you wouldn't want to suggest how people should donate, because any donation works. I'm wondering if it's better, and you don't have to answer this. I'm kind of curious because I read up on it a couple of days ago. I'm wondering if it's better for the food bank to receive cash donations, because you can stretch those dollars when you're buying bulk items.
Yeah, the short answer is yes. Of course, cash gives us the greatest flexibility, and we can then purchase the things that we need. Part of the reason for the emergency fund establishment is so that we have some ready funds that we can use quickly and specifically in times of need. But as you said, I wouldn't suggest that people choose. Some people like to shop, believe it or not, and so we would certainly not turn away any donation. If an item comes in that we don't typically put in a hamper, it will go on those miscellaneous shelves that I showed you in the slides, and people can select those items. And so we deal with ethnic types of food, special dietary types of food that way.
Thank you.
Quick question, if I may, Mr. Mayor. John, in terms of people that are having trouble finding housing, do you ever find people that actually end up on your doorstep that have no place to stay and are looking for somewhere to be that evening? Or how do you handle, or have you had to handle those kind of...
It's one of the toughest things that we have to deal with, is to turn people away because we have no place for them to stay the night. We're not sure, like our emergency fund will probably not be able to extend to very many hotel nights.
No.
So it's a continuous challenge. When people ask me personally what my views are as to what Summerland needs, we need a few shelter beds, maybe up to about 6 with our current load. Beyond that, we need some transitional housing where we can put people for a month or more. And then we need low-cost housing for them to live in on a continuing basis. So that's my personal model. That's what I would like to see us have. We do have people living on the streets in Summerland, in their cars, in some sort of a dilapidated trailer or tent in an orchard. So there are about 6 or 8 in that category, and then going up from there in various levels of inadequate housing up to kind of being able to afford a decent place to live.
And when you speak about transitional housing, what time frame, if something was transitional, what would you think would be, like 8 weeks or?
Really hard to say, but typically it would happen when maybe a family breakup or something like that, where all of a sudden there's not enough money to pay the rent, so the family has to find a place to stay, and there being so little availability of housing at the moment, it's impossible for them usually to find a place quickly and easily in Summerland. Right. So I think we tend to lose those families to other centres, to family that are out of town, or other centres that have the types of facilities that can handle that situation. Very hard to do, to turn someone away.
I'm sure it is. Do any of the agencies help you with those kind of supports?
No, there are none that we deal with at the moment that will find a place.
I know where I came from, that the regional district had a fund, and they would work with the OPP looking for something, an availability for an emergency situation. I didn't know if we did anything like that here.
I'm not aware of anything. The shelters in Penticton and Kelowna are the closest places that will provide a bed for the night.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Many people don't like a shelter.
Appreciate your information.
Yeah, one quick one, Councillor Booth.
John, you mentioned, thank you, Mr. Mayor. You mentioned that your budget for 2017 was 117,000?
Roughly, yeah. Mhm.
Do you have an idea what it will be for next year?
Oh, that is next year's budget.
Oh, that is
Yeah,
next year's
100
budget?
My
Okay.
presentation was the 2018
Okay,
budget, not the 2017.
thank you.
This year, about 115,000 this year, so it's a slight
A
increase.
little bit of, yeah.
Well, thank you very much, John. You are heading up a tremendous service, and takes a lot of dedication, and I commend you and the volunteers and the community as a whole for stepping up. But there's obvious needs, and I think some of the projects that are coming on stream locally and will be available over the next year may be of some assistance. So anyway, thank you very much for your presentation
Thank
this
you.
evening.
It's a privilege, and we look forward to more help. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now's the time when we come to an opportunity for the public to, pardon? Oh, I'm sorry, we have to have a motion to receive John's report. Councillor Booth, Councillor Barkle, thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Carried? Okay, yeah, sorry I missed that. Opportunity for public comment, and I'd ask you to keep it to 2 minutes, please. And this is really an opportunity to provide a comment or an opinion. It's not an opportunity to get into a discussion back and forth with questions and answers and so on. Otherwise, we actually deprive people of presenting their own comments. So, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and
Is that
Council.
on?
Yes, can you hear me? Yes. Okay. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I want to address the item on the agenda for opting out of the smart meter, or the electromagnetic radiating meters that we have in our homes. As you know, we're the only community in British Columbia that doesn't have an opt-out plan, so it's really good that it's on the agenda. And as some of you will know, I've been working on this for some time now, and over 3 years ago I submitted a very detailed report to the mayor on how to opt out with several different options. And while I'm happy that this is mentioned tonight and you have an option, none of the options that I discussed that would make it more affordable were part of the discussions. I note that what was the criteria for deciding on how much it would cost to opt out was by looking at what other communities charge. And while Penticton charges $10 a month, your proposal is to charge $24 a month. And you also have a disclaimer with Penticton saying that, well, their $10 a month is under review, as though that's going to change. But all costs are always under review for municipalities. Whether it will go up 124%, I kind of doubt it. Some years ago, I paid $600 to the municipality for 10 minutes of their work to watch while my electromagnetic radiating meter was removed from my home and put further away so that it wasn't emitting into my child's bedroom. The total cost that I paid was well over $2,000. That's what it meant to me to have it away from my home. And I believed at that time that $600 for 10 minutes of work for a municipal staff member to watch my electrician remove it was punitive in nature to discourage others from doing this. And I believe that the $24 a month that's proposed is also punitive. That's $288 a year, particularly when Penticton is charging $10. So what I also want to say is there was never a cost analysis done. How much is this going to cost? Will the municipality be making money out of us choosing to opt out? And I also want to compare what it means to opt out. Just as some of you have special dietary needs where you avoid certain foods, I have the need to avoid certain exposure to electromagnetic radiation from meters that are wireless. And I don't think I should be penalized for that, just as you should not be penalized for choosing the diet that you use. So what I'd like to, and one counselor actually, as I was coming in, mentioned to me that it's very difficult to assess the cost.
Can you draw
Well,
it
you
to a
start-
close? Can you
I'll
draw
wrap
it to a
up.
quickly close, please?
You start low and then assess as you go, but starting high is being punitive. So I suggest that you send this back to staff, have them talk to us. We never even knew this was coming up. There was never any discussion about this, what would work for us, and there are lots more proposals that would be much more affordable. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, my name is Ron. Thank you, the distinguished mayor and council, for listening. I would speak to the same subject, and my proposal is to create a web interface that will allow every person that wants to opt out to enter the consumption on a monthly basis. And I spoke with the mayor maybe 2-3 years ago about that idea, and my idea that if a person will not report the right amount, that can be checked on a yearly basis, so one visit per year. And then if someone reports the wrong amount, then he can be penalized and pay whatever amount the council will come up with. So this is my suggestion, and my dream is to have a space without any kind of radiation. I've got a cell tower that several years ago the radiation increased. By coincidence, I didn't have any idea that this subject will come tonight. I had an expert in my house, Tammy, it was Ross, and he was measuring radiation for me. I'm going to put paint to avoid radiation. And this is bedrooms of me and my children. So I would like you to consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak?
I was a bit excited. I'm still standing behind my offer 3 years ago to volunteer my time as a business analyst to design whatever it's required for that web interface.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else? Okay, I think we better carry on. Yeah.
I just wanted to say we didn't get much warning, and there would have been more people, but we just found out tonight.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess it's been on since the end, last Thursday, pretty much. Okay, that brings me to my report tonight. Well, the Chamber did it again. The 30th Annual Festival of Lights was outstanding. We, I think, pretty much met or surpassed last year's attendance of somewhere around 8,000 people. In addition, the children's stage area helped out with the numbers by having about 1,000 people in that area. So I'd like to congratulate Chamber Manager Christine Petkow, her staff, and Chamber President Eric Thompson, and the directors for another wonderful event. I don't know how you did it, but you managed the weather perfectly. It's a good record now you're dealing with, Eric. The conditions, although not terribly wintry, were wonderful for the visitors and their families. Also, I'd like to thank all the volunteers for their dedication, and a special thank you to our public works staff for all their hard work before and after the event, and of course a thank you to all our generous sponsors. From the vantage point of the stage, as the lights came on, the crowd seemed massive in every direction. It was at least as well attended, and since we had similar weather and temperatures, the lights themselves were absolutely spectacular. My wife and I checked out most of the vendors. The food selection was excellent, and each outlet seemed to have a great lineup. And the bands were fantastic. The music provided by our local bands, Groundswell and the Timberwolves, and Calgary band Nice Horse all provided great sound. It seemed to me, I don't know, Eric, you could maybe confirm this, but the sound system seemed excellent. Like throughout the whole street system, we had better sound than I was able to pick up in past years. You could hear it everywhere.
Yeah, I think they added some speakers.
Did you? Okay. Because I got to one end of the street and I was looking for another band because, you know, a replica or something, but I realized then that the speakers were doing a wonderful job. And this was my 5-year-old granddaughter Kayla's first fireworks, and her oohs and ahs said it all. So I'd like to thank you and everyone else involved in this year's light up. There is another issue I'd like to deal with. In a free and democratic society such as Canada, the public can speak their mind in many ways, through all types of social media, letters to the editor, letters to council, signage, public protests, etc. In addition, there are formal opportunities for the public to engage council and staff, such as open houses and public hearings. By legislation, council has the option in their procedures bylaw, in our procedures bylaw, to offer other opportunities for public comment. For example, in Summerland, the public are invited to speak a limited time at the beginning of a council meeting and at the end prior to adjournment. Despite these opportunities for respectful comment, there has been a downward spiral in terms of what is acceptable. This community has had a stated principle stand against bullying, and in all its various forms, such as intimidation, sexual harassment, and verbal abuse, etc. As adult members of this community concerned about issues, there is a duty to observe the same rules that we expect from our youth. In council meetings, I have witnessed bullying, disrespectful comment under one's breath that are still heard, strong, disrespectful body language, and harassing commentary. All of this is meant by those individuals to intimidate those around them with differing opinions. Personally, I've been subjected to dead rats delivered to my home, bullying, verbal abuse, and disgusting graffiti. This activity has no place in a civil society. Rather than strengthening our democracy, it diminishes it. We certainly appreciate the passion and engagement we need to hear from everyone. Many of Council's projects have had very positive and respectful comment, such as the Woodbridge subdivision, where there was a special wildlife park included, as well as the recent Nixon Road development. Everyone has a right to speak and be heard, but I'd ask that everyone be respectful. Thank you. That's my report. CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very briefly, just a couple of items. The Wharton Street invitation to submit offers was published last Friday. We're hoping to see a number of offers on that item. It closes January 26th. We've also had some additional activity take place with the Glenfir School. The new owners were in last week to meet with us. They've secured their professionals and have some preliminary architectural drawings. We're meeting with them next month to go over the process for development permit and building permit. They hope to get going early in next year as they're shooting for September 2018 opening. And some new information on medical marijuana and recreation marijuana was published by the federal government this week. So we've received some new regulation information that we're processing. One of the major items for us that we've identified is the creation of a micro producer category, so an in-between category that's going to have a lower level of regulation that's been introduced, and that is for producing as well as processing. Not a lot of details on that, but we'll keep council abreast of that information. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Councillor Barkle.
Yes, if I could ask a couple of questions for some updates on projects.
Go ahead.
Yeah, from this year. The Garnet Valley project, is there work still going on, or is it completed, or is there more paving to be done?
We're through that to
Mr.
our public
Johnson.
works.
Yeah, there's minor deficiency work that's being completed still. Some of the work, like line painting, will be completed next year. My intent is to bring an updated report to the December 11th meeting to provide council a full update.
Okay, thanks. And if I could, I guess this is directed to Mr. Johnson. There's unpaved section at the bottom of Peach Orchard Road, fairly wide width. Is that going to be paved before the winter comes?
I'm not 100% sure on that one. I know asphalt plants are open till Thursday this week, so
Yeah.
any patching that will be done would have to be done before then.
Oh, so you don't know if it's on the schedule or not?
I'd have to follow up with work staff.
I hope it is.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're into 10.1, correspondence. Now, we have no actual correspondence.
There are no letters of correspondence.
No letters brought in specifically for correspondence, just our outstanding council resolutions. Anything there would the council like to bring forward? Okay, so could I have a motion as presented to receive the information? Councillor Carlson.
I'll move 10.1 as presented.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Booth. Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Carried. Okay, 10.2, Committee Commission Minutes. We have the Community Climate Action Committee minutes. Just a motion to receive. Councillor Carlson. Councillor Barkle, thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Carried. No Development Services reports. You're off the
I'm
hook.
too busy as the
Wow.
CAO.
Okay, moving on to other reports. Who's dealing with the Rural Dividend Fund 112.1? Angelique?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So quite to our surprise, fourth intake of rural dividend funding has come available, and the opportunity to apply for economic development funding in relation to the Arts and Cultural Center development that we're undertaking seems like a great opportunity. So the report outlines premise to apply for the funding for the full maximum allowable as an individual applicant, which would be for a total value of $100,000. And I suggest that we would use the dollars that we have to contribute, 12.5 of in-kind staff time and 12.5 out of the capital budget as part of the already allocated dollars for the Arts and Cultural Center funding. So we need a resolution to proceed to make the funding application.
Councillor Carlson.
You note that this is the fourth rural dividend application. I'm wondering if you can remind me whether this is the first one that will relate to the Arts and Cultural Center or arts and culture in general for Summerland?
It is the first one for arts and culture for Summerland.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, would someone like to bring that recommendation forward as resolution as presented? Councillor Holmes, thank you. Councillor Peak. Thank you.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. There you go, Angelique.
Thank you.
Okay, 12.2, the 217 GHD reduction project. Tammy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. As noted in the staff report that you have, this is an information item to report on the project that was selected for the 2017 greenhouse gas reductions. I've got a few statistics to share with you. So the Real Ice product was installed and started in use by staff on November the 7th. And already we've had reports from our operational staff that the ice is looking better, that the filling time for the ice resurfacer is the same, so we're not having any additional operational costs. We've been able to turn 2 of 3 boilers in the arena off as a result of installing this equipment, and as well to reduce the floor temperature in the arena by 1.5 degrees. Further, the inline heater has been reduced from 150 degrees to 120. And so while we're excited about these initial results, we are going to be monitoring and calculating the actual realized energy savings over time. And I'll be reporting back hopefully in 6 months to a year with some updated numbers for you. But the initial reports back are looking quite positive, and we're happy to bring this report for your information.
Thank you. Yeah, I found that fascinating. When I saw the name, I had to Google it, see what it actually was as a piece of equipment. And it's quite fascinating the way it separates out the air bubbles, etc. And even, I guess, one of the calcium compounds as well. I think so. So that it reduces the, well, it means you can actually apply cold water instead of hot water as well, eh? So it's actually pretty fascinating from the physics of it as to how it actually works. So, Councillor Peak.
Yeah, this will help both the curling club and the arena, I understand.
My understanding is that the operational staff will be using it for all of the ice, yes.
Really quite exciting. Thank you very much for looking out for these things.
It's good. It's a bonus. Any other, Councillor Holmes?
I think you've just identified the problem Vancouver Canucks have been having all these years. They have too many micro air bubbles in their ice.
The bubbles are somewhere, Councillor Holmes. I'm not sure they're in the ice.
I think this is, this is what it's all about, is finding these little things where we can just, really make a difference, it's not, there's no silver bullet, right? There's these little things that if we keep at them and we keep finding these things, like, it's amazing, and who would have thunk, right? And it just also just goes to show you that technology is going to save us.
Maybe. Councillor Pete.
If I might, I turned my page and I realized that the estimated cost of savings is $54,000, which is wonderful, and it talks about a payback period of 5.5 years. I'm wondering what the life of the project is. So in terms of how long will this equipment last, do we have any idea?
Thank you for that question. The expected or the warranted or guaranteed lifespan is 10 years, but we've had reports that it would potentially last longer depending on use and whatnot. So we're hoping to exceed that, but 10 years is what they've sort of guaranteed us.
Okay. It's always nice to know what they project. Thank you very much.
I understand hockey players appreciate this as having better ice than before. So we're expecting better results or ongoing great results. Okay, can we have a resolution to receive that, please? Councillor Barkwell, Councillor Boot, thank you. All in favor? Carried. On to, let's see.
Council meeting schedule.
Yeah, 12.3, council meeting schedule. Pretty straightforward. Would someone like to bring that forward, please?
I just have a question,
Okay.
if that's okay. The October 22nd meeting, that's the Monday right after the election. Is that normal to have one?
I don't know if I'm worried about that or not, Councillor.
Well, I'm not worried about it either, but.
Actually, by the community charter, we're required to do it within so many days. So it's usually a light meeting, just to inaugurate the new council. And
But
then
then it says in your report that the Tuesday,
The inaugural will be
the
November 5th.
the November 5th meeting will be the inaugural one, which is a week before the actual one.
We're splitting hairs.
So you can't really have two inaugural.
the inaugural one would be the November 5th, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
So it'll be a very light meeting, then, that's what he's trying to tell you.
Yeah, I mean, this is suggested based upon the pattern that's already existed.
22nd.
It is entirely up to council to set whatever schedule you wish. If you want to change any days at all, you're welcome to do so.
It is quite common to have that council meeting. It's just to maintain applications and other items of business so that you don't lose that continuity and you still follow the normal cycle. Whether the new council or councillor has been successful in the election or not, you still have the old council for that meeting. And as the mayor mentioned, it's usually a light agenda and dealing with things that just have to be dealt with.
Thank you. Okay, could we have that brought forward, please? Councillor Trainer, thank you. Councillor Barkle? All in favor? Carried. Okay, so next year's squared off. 12.4. And I think that's, Tammy? Oh, everybody's pointing fingers. Mr. Johnson?
All right. Yeah, so the purpose of this report was to bring forward a revenue-neutral policy framework for residents wishing to opt out of the automated meter reading for electric meters. The district has received a few requests in the past for this, and due to perceived concerns of the radiation from electromagnetic frequencies from the meters. Currently, there's no policy framework that exists to address these requests, so a staff group was created to research this, look at best practices in other BC municipalities and other utilities, and has drafted a policy to ensure that the costs to the district are recovered and that to ensure consistency on any future requests that may come forward. So there's a setup fee and a manual meter read fee that's noted in the report. Currently, the fees and charges bylaw does not specify a fixed rate for changing to an AMR meter, or changing from an AR meter to a non-radio frequency meter. So based on staff's review, which looked at other municipalities, but also the actual cost estimates that it would be to to do this work, we are recommending that the setup fee be approximately $100. This is more than Fortis and BC Hydro, but less than Nelson and Penticton. Also, including this in the fees and charges bylaw would increase transparency to the public and would also ensure that the rates would automatically be adjusted over time as the district looks at the rates. Based on the manual meter read fee, this would be due to that no longer being able to do an automatic read. A meter would have to be read manually each month. Staff estimated that the district's cost to manually read the meter would be approximately $24. This is slightly more than Fortis, BC, BC Hydro, or Penticton, but is equal to that which is charged in Nelson.
Thank you. Councillor Barcombe and Councillor Trainer.
It seems to me, but I can't be sure, that we used to read meters every other month, and that it would be unnecessary to read the meter every month and charge $24 a month. Could we make this fee $12 a month and read the meter every month, every other month?
I guess I'm not aware of the history of why it switched to monthly. I think the proposal to go monthly is based on our current meter reading practice. It's something that could be looked into.
Yeah, I can't recall that, Councillor Barco, but when we went to sort of the more automated reading, maybe that allowed us to go monthly. I'm not sure.
Well, it definitely makes the meter reading process more efficient. And by reading them monthly versus bi-monthly, it helps give you a chance to deal with any issues that may arise due to inconsistencies in the reading or issues that may be with the meter, so it helps you catch those sooner. I guess it's something that if council wishes, we could take back with the manual meter reading policy to look at if that's what council wishes.
I think the only, I mean, I know what Penticton's is, but we'd have to check and see what Nelson and Grand Forks do, whether they're monthly or bi-monthly. Because if they're bi-monthly and charging that, then everything more or less equates down the chart. So maybe we need to examine that a little bit more. Councillor Holmes? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, Councillor Trainer came first. Go ahead.
I have two questions. The first one is, do you have an approximate number of how many people have requested this to opt out?
I do not know. Tammy, I don't know if you have any more information.
Thanks for that question. My understanding is that we've had 2 or 3 in the past.
2 or 3 households?
That's right.
Okay. And then my second question was the $100 setup fee. Do you have to remove the current meter and put on a new meter that is read manually? Is that how that works?
Correct.
So is that $100 the replacement fee as well as the setup fee?
Yeah, I believe that would be the cost for staff to swap out that meter.
Okay. And do we have meters right now that can be read manually? Like, do we have them in stock kind of thing?
I'm not sure if we do, but if this is the way we would go, we would have some in stock.
Okay. I was just wondering if that covers the cost of them.
There is a price difference between the two different types of meters. The ones that you have to manually read as opposed to the ones that emit the electronic frequencies. So that extra cost has been taken into account in that $100 fee.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Booth.
Is Fortis responsible for installing the meters in areas that are, unincorporated? I'm just wondering why our staff takes care of the meters here and Fortis would install in other areas. Is that why?
Because of the district, we own our own electrical utility, so within the district, we look after everything within the district. Fortis,
okay. So it's kind of like hardware stuff after the distribution, or I guess as part of the distribution.
Yeah, Fortis's responsibility ends at the substation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Holmes and Councillor Peak.
I just wanted to make a comment regarding the reading every other month. I think if we do ask staff to look at that. We also have to take in consideration what that means for billing and
Yes.
all the staff time that would be involved in having two different systems for collecting and billing, so.
Councillor Peak?
Yes, we talk about the opportunity to consult with the public, and I do know that the people that spoke this evening, at least one of them, has spoken in the past, and I wonder if there's an opportunity to have some discussion with those households before we finalize what we decide on.
Well, I think to be fair, the issue's being discussed and brought up, and that's why primarily we've got this before us. And I think that's, at the urging of the individuals that, wanted to change and wanted the ability to change. So in terms of the rates and so on, I think that's something that we perhaps, or maybe are coming to a point here where we may want a little more information, because if indeed the Nelson Grand Forks, for example, are bi-monthly, then that starts to make sense. But again, the billing procedures, et cetera, all have to be taken into account. So perhaps we need to pursue it a bit more to make sure that we're fair. But that's up to one of you to deal with that. So,
Thank you.
I'm sitting here waiting.
Yeah, well, yeah, we have to figure out wording here. It's all legalese, right?
Oh yeah, just say it. We'll get, that's what Jeremy's here for, to figure out what you said.
Well, let's send it back to staff for the opportunity to do a review, to
Okay.
make the basis of the billing to be in fairness to those that,
I think there's just a couple of simple questions to try and get answers to.
and if we ask the
Yeah,
staff to review it, I think that
Because
would...
we do remember, we're talking at this point, maybe 2 or 3 households, and although it's important to those households, there's been a lot of work go into establishing this right now. So I think, to be fair, we have to ask a couple of simple things like, are we looking at monthly versus bi-monthly, and are there implications for our billing? So, Councillor Booth, Councillor Barkwell?
As part of that review, could we have the staff consider the web interface that Ron brought up? Is it possible to have that as part of the review?
Again, gotta remember capacity, that's what I'm thinking of,
Just
staff time. Just a minute, Councillor Barkwell?
Yes, now I forgot my question.
It's okay, Councillor Carlson, we'll come back.
Just to add to that, it was brought up by Councillor Holmes that there would be, all of a sudden, you're now looking at billing and staff time and a lot of other factors that go into it. It's not just asking someone to create a program or a database. There's more steps to it, and I think that, we can ask that question, and what would it take, but unless, there's 500 households that are interested in this, I'm not sure if it's going to be the right direction, so.
Thank you. Where were we? You remember now?
Yeah, yes. Councillor Carlson sort of reminded me, I think that once it becomes more widely known that this is available, we could have more people who are interested, which would actually lead to some efficiencies in the process. And the other, so that's, the other thing is, maybe for Mr. Johnson, is can the existing meter be used and just disable the radio frequency part of it and still have the display to be read?
Not that I'm aware of. no.
Okay.
Okay, so I think, given the comments here, I think I'd rather keep any motion you bring forward simple, refer back to staff with respect to timeframes, whether it's monthly or bi-monthly, and what was the other thing? Anyway, have them, there was something more you were asking for. Oh, some staff time and so on in terms of billing. So perhaps someone wants to bring
I'll
that
move
forward. Okay, thank you.
Just for clarification, you're asking staff to review specifically around the monthly fee?
Yes.
And whether that is,
And the possibility of doing it bi-monthly.
Or even once every 3 months with an estimate, something like that. I think that's, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure that was what was done before. 1 month was estimated and the other one was, brought it
Right.
back into alignment.
Right.
Okay, so that would certainly affect the main concern about cost comparisons with Penticton. So there may be some other implications the staff might want to address when they figure that out.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So, you got something there?
Yeah, I kept it fairly generic because I think we've all taken many notes. So I've said that staff be directed to further review the proposed AMR electrical meter opt-out monthly fees and report back to council at a future meeting.
Okay.
We'll take note of all those items.
Seconder, please. Well, that's mover.
Doug moved
I
it.
moved it.
You
He
moved
moved
Councillor
it. I'll
Holmes,
second
Councillor
it.
Peak, all in favor? Thank you. Carried? None opposed. Okay. Moving ahead. Where are we now? We've done 12.5.
That was electrical now, 12.5.
Pardon me? Okay, 12.5, AMR water meter relocation.
So this is looking at a similar situation for our water meters. The difference here is that there isn't an alternative for for an AMR reader. So there's not a non-frequency meter that would be viable. So the recommendation is to have the option would be to relocate the AMR meter outside of the home into a pit meter near the property line, which we do have in other scenarios as well. Based on that, the setup fee would be as per the cost in the water bylaw. We'd be looking at costs of about $1,500, to install a pit meter at the property line, which would be an underground chamber in which the meter would be housed. Then associated with that would be there wouldn't be a manual meter read fee because it would still be an AMR meter in this situation.
Okay. Any questions of Mr. Johnson? Pretty straightforward. Okay, someone like to bring that forward, please? Councillor Carlson.
I will move resolution 12.5 as written.
Okay, thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Holmes, thank you. Any further discussion? And it's certainly not inexpensive, but it does provide an option for those. Those are not the same costs we had originally when we were looking at pit meters, but it quickly became the cost when we didn't have a bulk thing we were doing at the time. So I think it was originally, Mr. Johnson, 750 when we were installing. We were talking about pit meters at the time. And that changed because of the numbers we had to do, and we ended up doing very few pit meters, and then it became the charges we have now. So I don't see any change from that. So someone brought it forward. Do we have a second?
Could I just ask a question?
Yeah.
I know that the Water Advisory Committee has been on a bit of hiatus, and I also know that the last thing that we were tackling was the what was it called? Second service. And there's all kinds of different permutations of that. I'm wondering if there is the need for more pit meters to be installed to take care of those issues on those various properties, if that might be an opportunity for this kind of work to be done at the same time, perhaps lowering the cost?
Not that I'm aware of, because the whole thing went through the whole process of metering. All those boxes are out in place, and individual meters, residential situations went in the homes where there may have been some preference. I know at the time there were several people that did opt to put pit meters out because of the specifics of their location. And so that did happen in several locations, but it wasn't the general course of way we dealt with it.
So those would already be installed
Yeah.
then, is what you're
Yeah.
saying? Okay.
Councillor Holmes?
I'm confused.
That's
I mean,
okay.
the issue of the second service, we still have that. There's still many properties out there that are just
Yeah.
paying that set fee for second service. We've never resolved that.
Yeah, well, we're
issue.
not, this isn't part of the discussion tonight, though.
Well, that was Councillor Booth's question.
Well, it may go
If-
back
if-
to the
if-
Water Committee if they're dealing with it.
Yeah, well, my question was if this is one of the things that will help to resolve that issue, and I don't know, because, I don't know the details. But if that happens to be the case, and we're installing pit meters at some of these second service locations, perhaps there would be a bulk buying kind of
An opportunity.
possibility. I don't know.
Possibly.
You're saying no?
Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, I guess that is one of the options that was initially discussed with the second services. I think you would have, unless there was a significant number of requests to get the AMR meters out of houses and into pit meters, you would have already, the bulk of that work would be with dealing with the second services if that's the solution that we came with. So I think you would have your economies of scale through that program and would maybe be able to tie in the handful that may come through this request.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I see
Yes.
it the other way of dealing with the second services and having the economies of scale there when tying in a few AMR meter relocations versus the other way around.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you.
Sorry, just I want to clarify
Yeah,
just
go
on
ahead.
the costs as well. Sorry, I noted that they would be $1,500. That's what the current bylaw specifies for a service fee for a pit meter. The recommendation coming from the staff group that looked at this would be to do it at cost because of the varying situations that could be encountered at each property, and that the Schedule A in the bylaw be reflected to note that they would be billed at cost and not at the $1,500.
So it could be more or less than the 1,500.
Yeah, so with each scenario, an estimate would be completed to look
I
at
see.
what the cost would be. So with that, there would be an application fee of $85 to look at that scenario and
Gotcha.
come up with that cost estimate. So depending on what was encountered, then the cost would be billed.
Okay. Yeah, it probably more in reality reflects what happened on the ground. So we've got a mover and seconder, did we?
Yep.
Yep, okay, all in favor? Thank you, carries. Moving ahead to 12.6. Mr. Deniger.
So this is an update regarding the petition, the ongoing petition. There's another 8 pages received. They are included there, attached to the report. It's simply for council to receive.
Okay, thank you. Motion to receive, please. Councillor Carlson?
I'll move 12.6 as presented.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Peak, thank you. All in favor? Carried, thank you very much. 12.7. The same thing.
Similar regarding the composting facility.
Yeah. Okay, motion to receive.
I'll also move 12.7 regarding the compost facility
Okay,
as
thank you.
presented.
Seconder, please. Councillor Trainer, thank you. All in favor? Carried, thank you. Okay, 12.8. Mr. Strachan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So we've got a report from David and Chris, our Director of Finance, as well as our Director of Works and Utilities. And this is related to the Banks Crescent project. And what you have before you is financial and infrastructure analysis. And I just want to acknowledge how much work these two gentlemen have put into this report before you. A lot of these items took a lot of work to sort out exactly how to put them in a quantitative form. So this information essentially is bringing to the end of this process we started in February with looking at infrastructure components. What is remaining is still the third-party review, which we have had contact from the hydrologist last week, and we're still on schedule for 2 to 3 weeks from now to have that report ready for council's review. So we're currently sitting at second reading of the bylaw. You're receiving this additional information tonight, and I'll turn it over to these gentlemen to present this report.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, are you first? Who's up? Oh, okay.
No, it looks like I'm first.
See, I think so.
This will be a tag team presentation. Chris and I were discussing, and we were hoping that we'd go through each kind of individual section and then open it up to council for questions, as opposed to maybe leaving questions to the very end and forgetting them. So
Keeping that in mind, Councillor Boot had a quick question for Mr. Strachan.
Yeah, our acting CAO. Is it, or I guess with your development hat on, would it be possible, because we're referring to the various buildings and the number of units in each building and what type of residence there will be in each building, would it be possible to have the latest iteration of the plan up there? Because I noted that the number of units has changed again.
There'll be an explanation of that. There's a reason for that.
I'm sure there is a reason for it, but I'm just wondering if it would be possible to have, building A through
I don't think
E.
it's necessary with Mr. Strachan's explanation. I asked the same question earlier today. Mr.
Just
Strachan.
explain, so there's two numbers that have sort of had, we'll certainly try and get that. I don't have the slide available today, but I can certainly bring that up for the next council meeting. Unfortunately, the slide itself that council has seen previously that maps out the buildings, the tables are very small on it, so I'll have to take the table out, blow it up to a larger scale to give the number counts. But council has received that as part of the development permit application we received earlier this year. So in the summer, there's a full package that came, and I have the binder here with that information if council wishes to see it at any point. The question around numbers, so 424 and 415 you see appearing in the report. 424 is the maximum unit count that the zoning that's proposed allows. So the zoning has been designed around, it's a CD zone, it allows 424. The current,
Units?
excuse me?
424 what?
Total units.
Units.
Total units. What you're seeing, though, is an evolution as they get more and more detail of the designs. They're going from one-bedroom to two-bedroom units, reducing the numbers and altering the totals. So right now, the proposal before council at development permits, so the designs are at 415. So the zoning itself would allow up to 424, but the current design that we have before us is 415. So you'll see those two numbers referred to. The studies that were done around traffic and so forth were done to that maximum, which is 424. Other details, like the financial details, are looking at what they've proposed to date. So of course, if they decide to alter two bedrooms, so they end up with, instead of 3 2-bedrooms, they have 4 1-bedrooms, the square footage won't change, but the number of units will. So that's the process that's underway that creates those two numbers that you see in the reporting. Does that answer your question?
Thank you. Okay, CFO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the financial analysis presented to council is based on information provided by the developer to the district. Staff has reviewed the information, and we've calculated the estimated revenues and expenses directly associated with the proposed development. Now, in some instances, we have made some assumptions when used to quantify some of the results. In looking at property taxation, so in order to estimate annual property taxes for this development, we required a baseline comparative. We had discussions with BC assessment representatives in which we provided them the scenario, the type of development that was being proposed, and the Southwind Retirement Resort was chosen due to the fact that it was recently constructed in 2015 and that it also offers similar types of care services. BC assessment also noted that these types of facilities are assessed as Class 1 residential properties. To verify that, we examined 2 classifications of similar type facilities here in Summerland, Angus Place and the Summerland Senior Village, and both of which are classified as Class 1 residential. So after performing the necessary calculations, we estimate that the annual property taxation revenues generated from this proposed development will be $296,950. We can stop here to ask any questions pertaining to property taxes. If not, I guess we'll move on to the. Sorry,
Councillor Barkle.
So you're saying that final build out this project will be worth, have an assessed value of $20 million?
90.
Or I'm looking at the wrong page or something.
It would be
95 million.
Where's that total? Well, I see, oh, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Okay, thanks. End of my question.
Okay.
Yeah.
94 million.
Yeah, okay, that makes more sense.
Councillor Holmes.
This is to do with this, but it's more probably for Mr. Strachan. So the financial analysis we received on June 26, the comparison, it's the square footage has, even though the number of units, they increased from 389 to 415, but the square footage, it's about a third more, right? It's about 489 to jump to $728. And that's reflected in the increase in the assessed value and the increase in the property taxes, which went from 200,000 to now to 300,000, again by a third. So the limit might be 424 units, but is there a limit on the square footage? And this additional 240,000 square feet from June to now, where is that going to go? Is it the footprint going to increase, or is it going to go higher?
I can answer that question, actually.
Okay.
When the initial analysis was put together on June 26th, the square footage that was used was specific to the buildings and the buildings only. In looking at the detailed plans more closely, it was noted that there was approximately $200,000 or 200,000 square feet of parking space that was not accounted for. Now, of course, in a residence, in a development like this, that would be taxed as well. So in the analysis you now have in front of you, which shows square footage of 728,000 square feet, that includes the parking as well. So that's why there is a difference in those two numbers.
So 1/3 of the whole development is going to be parking.
Based on the information that was provided.
Okay. Go ahead. Fine, Councillor Holmes?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
May I just ask?
Oh, Councillor Boot, yeah.
I just wanted to clarify the approximate $297,000 that shows 2017 property taxes, so what would be, if it was in place today, that refers to the amount for all of the units being built, right?
Correct. This at full build out.
So if it takes the amount of time that we've been hearing, 5 to 7 years, it won't be that 297 each year. It will be, once it's all built, 297?
Yeah. Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead,
Okay.
David.
So, in looking at the fire services, we had some conversations with our fire chief and his department. They identified a few potential concerns with the construction of this development. Now, in reviewing these concerns, it's the finance department's conclusion that only one of the concerns could have a potential future financial ramification on the district's operations. As council is aware, the district's high building bylaw notes that any building over 6 stories or higher is required to construct and equip, now this is at the developer's cost, fire department rooms. Upon completion of the development, the loose equipment within those rooms becomes the property of the district. Based on preliminary drawings, 4 such rooms may be required, with approximately $12,000 of loose equipment in each room. Now, the fire chief has noted that annual maintenance cost on this loose equipment is negligible. However, to replace this loose equipment that has an average useful life of about 15 years, it could cost the district approximately $3,200 per year. In conversations with our Director of Development Services, as a part of the development agreement, we could require a covenant that would require the strata to replace the equipment based on the 15-year useful life and have them replace the equipment. So that then would be at no cost to us. But in the summary, you'll note that we have noted $3,200 just because it's there.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a question, Councillor Peak?
I would say that the strata having the replacement cost would be sensible because it would be a cost of development for their own protection.
I don't know the, regulations around stratas. The one I was involved in, we would have had to replace our own, but I don't know how that stacks up. Mr. Strachan.
We would request in the development agreement that the same as the alarm system and all the other components, that this would be replaced on a schedule and it would be registered as a covenant on title. So the strata would be responsible for whatever the equipment costs to be replaced at the time. And that would ensure that we have the proper equipment and would be purchased by our fire department but billed to the strata.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, go ahead, David.
Okay, so when we look at the RCMP, now based on discussions with Sergeant, his last name escapes me, Faulkner, he does not see an increase in policing costs directly associated with this proposed development. Now, the report does highlight the current funding model for RCMP services, with the district paying 70% and the federal government paying 30%. This has been noted as the district's current population is approximately 11,600. Now, this is based on 2016 census data, and it's important to note as once the district reaches a population of 15,000, our policing costs increase to 90%. Looking at population growth over the past 15 years, there's been a 0.63 per annum increase in Summerland's population. So based on this growth and calculating this out, the district will reach 15,000 population in 2057. However, if we incorporate the estimated 1,000 new residents based on this development, that timeline shrinks to 2046. Again, this was provided just for information, just so council's aware of it. As staff, we have not included any of the cost parameters in our analysis.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next. Oh, Councillor Holmes.
So, as you noted in the report, that there's the financial consequences of reaching the population of 15,000 and how soon we'll get there is quite subjective, and there's a number of assumptions. And so we'd reach that 15,000 mark at our current steady growth pace by 2057, and we'd get there 11 years earlier with the Banks Crescent. I'm just wondering if in the assumptions you made that once something like this is built and a precedence is set for more larger developments, will there be a domino effect and we would actually reach that much quicker? I'm just wondering if that was one of the assumptions.
The way I put the assumptions in was that I had added 1,000 residents in 2019 and then done the 0.63 calculation there on in. That's
Based on that.
Based on that assumption.
It's, as you say, Councillor Holmes, it's quite subjective. I mean, we don't really have much idea how the pressures of population growth in the whole valley are going to occur. Councillor Carlson.
We also know that 1,000 people aren't going to all move in the same year. Well, I guess we don't know that, but we assume that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I really appreciate that it's quite complicated, but the bottom line and the final number there, the difference between 70% and 90% this year is $337,000, which is significant, but then again, when you have another 4,000 or 5,000 people in your community, another $300,000 in policing is probably going to be, you find a way to pay for that. So it's just the cost of getting larger, but we do need to consider, do we want to get there and how fast do we want to get there?
I think those calculations are sort of have been looked at over time. I know, for example, Osoyoos has just crossed the 5,000 figure too. I guess that means they are at our formula now?
Correct.
Yeah. So they've had to, go to this 70-30, where they've had provincial paying the whole works before that, if I'm not mistaken.
It wasn't the whole works. It was a very, very reduced amount.
So what I'm getting at is over time, it's based on the population's ability to pay with respect to the new percentage ratio that you end up with. So if we were looking at it now and saying, okay, what would we have to pay, on a per capita basis based on 11,006, doesn't equate when you're looking at the potential of 15,000 is what you'd be at in terms of your ability to pay. So as Councillor Carlson said, that changes substantially once you've got a better tax base, which would be represented by the 15,000, which seems pretty obvious to me. Councillor Holmes.
Well, yeah, and as Councillor Carlson also said, it's something you might want to plan for.
Yep, for sure. Counselor Peak.
Yeah, when, there's no real precedence in planning. It's usually the economy that makes the difference as to when you receive development or when people have the opportunity to make their investments happen, whether they have land in there, then the economy comes up and they see the opportunity to do the investments. When you look at 2046 or you look at 2057, it would be up to the councils of the future to look to, knowing that those population numbers would then predict that over a 5-year period, you're going to start to move to put those monies available out of the monies that you are receiving as revenue. And that's just future planning, and you should be doing that.
Exactly, and I take Councillor Holmes' point quite seriously, because when you look, over the history in the community, say, of the last 50 years, and you look at the, say, conditions of our roads, you wonder about the planning that took place in terms of setting money aside to get that done. And this is why, if you had the misfortune to have a 0.00 tax increase, the money has to come from somewhere, so you rob it from programs when you try to do your infrastructure or whatever. So you have to have some way of meeting those additional costs over time. And that's what why we have a finance department. Anyway, carry on.
Kate, moving into roads and sidewalks, I just wanted to step back a little bit before I get into the operational costs, and just to try to provide some clarification to a question I believe that was raised last meeting, just regards to the generated traffic and the distribution that, as far as where it's assumed it will go to and from the site. So based on the size of the development and the number of units, it's expected to generate about 2,000 vehicle trips per day. The background traffic volumes of the Sully and Latimer intersection were reviewed as part of the assessment. Based on that, there was an estimation that 50% of the vehicles would travel to and from the site along Prairie Valley Road, to and from downtown via Prairie Valley Road, so onto Sully, across the highway, onto Prairie Valley Road. Any vehicles traveling north of Summerland, it was assumed that they would take Sully Road up to the highway and then travel north on Highway 97. Any vehicles traveling south, it was assumed that there would be about an even split between vehicles that would go on Sully up to the highway and go south, compared to the equal split that would go down Gillespie onto Lakeshore and then head south to the highway there. So based on those numbers, there's about 1,750 vehicles per day that will travel to and from the site via Latimer and Sully, and about 250 vehicles per day that would travel down Gillespie, McDonald, Sully onto Lakeshore and then make their way to the highway. So based on that, that's where the upgrades that were recommended or identified in the previous reports were to Latimer and Sully only. And that looked at 700 meters of Sully Road, which didn't include the initial 100 meters off of the highway where the road is wider and where improvements have been made with the intersection improvements. It was just from the point where it began to narrow near the access to the fruit stand on the highway from that point down. So that's where the 700 meter split and the 300 meter split for Sully and Latimer were identified. Based on the estimated costs that were brought forward previously, roughly $1.2 million for Sully Road to upgrade it to a collector and $600,000 for Latimer. These are the numbers that have been brought forward, and staff are going to continue to negotiate with the developer to determine the amenity contribution that should be brought forward or would be settled on for those upgrades from the developer. So are there any questions on that piece?
The only thing was, I wasn't quite clear there. I think when you talked about 25% of the traffic will be to the south, which will be split. Sully Road and Latimer to Highway and 97, and then along Lakeshore from Gillespie. I think you indicated might go up to the highway. So anyway, that's, as you've written here, is the way it's going to be.
Yep.
The way you perspective. Okay, go ahead.
So looking at some of the components of the road and sidewalks for operations.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions.
Yep.
The numbers that we've been given, the 2,000, just over 2,000 vehicle trips per day, does that include the construction vehicles over the time of construction?
This is only the generated traffic from the development once it's fully built.
So you wouldn't have those vehicles during the construction? The 2,000 that would be from the residents themselves?
Yeah, correct. But I'm wondering about the construction vehicles, which typically are larger than a car and heavier. And that's why it's being upgraded to a collector road status, to accommodate the wear and tear of those larger vehicles on the roads, or?
No, recommendation was to upgrade it to a collector to accommodate the additional 2,000 vehicles from the full build-out.
Okay, so and I don't know the first thing about building roads. So no thought has to be given to the wear and tear of those roads during the 5 to 7 years of construction by construction vehicles?
Typically, what would be done is the roads would be assessed before construction and identified, the condition would be identified, and then following construction, any damage that was caused due to construction vehicles utilizing those roads, the contractor or the developer, however it was worked out, would be responsible to bring those bad roads back to a standard that they were. So if the road was damaged during the construction traffic traveling to and from the site, then they would be responsible to bring it back to a standard, but not necessarily to an upgraded standard.
So they would bring it back to the standard of what the roads are kind of pre-construction, and then the upgrade to the collector road status is on top of that?
Correct. So in this situation where we're looking at recommending an upgrade of the road to a higher standard to handle the traffic from the development, we would have to...
Post-construction?
We would have to quantify or determine at what point during the construction phase would those upgrades to a collector be required to handle that additional traffic. Would that be following phase 1? Would that be somewhere in phase 2, or would it be at full build-out once construction was completed? So the intent would be that you would sort of coordinate and time the repair of the bulk of the damage from construction with the upgrades that would be proposed to handle the future traffic.
Okay, thank you. Dean?
Just a further comment on that, and that's what the development agreement that we note outlines how those timelines and how those works are,
Okay.
as well as the securities that we hold for those works. So we hold bonding for those works to ensure that they're completed.
Okay. May I ask a couple of other questions? And getting back to the number of generated vehicle trips, the 2,000, does that include the shuttles that the developer has said will be moving back and forth?
This is based on a general estimate based on the proposed development, so it would include typically based on those land uses, what would be generated from a typical site. So it's not specific to say it would include shuttles or not.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a general estimate of what this development of this type would develop, so.
Based on the number of residences that will be living there?
Exactly.
Or residents that will be living there?
Yes.
Great. Thank you, that's all the questions I have.
Councillor Holmes.
It's noted for the road upgrades that staff are continuing to negotiate to determine the amenity contribution amount. I'm a bit confused. Shouldn't those be DCCs rather than amenity contributions? And if not, is that because Sully and Latimer aren't on the DCC list? I'm just confused with a little bit confused there.
Okay, Chris.
Yeah, that's correct. Those two roadways currently aren't listed in the DCC bylaw as road projects for the road DCCs. So they would be amenity contributions in this case.
So that's what would have to be, that's the only way to get them upgraded as if they were amenity contributions.
Yep.
Yeah, which is, some of that was dealt with last meeting in terms of how much that might be. Mr. Strachan?
And as we move towards the next phase, council may wish to review which projects are DCC projects. And that may be one of the recommendations that comes from staff along with the amenity, is looking at some of these roadways that have a wider scope and looking at the list that we currently have in the DCC bylaw and whether Solly Road as it's in its entirety should be a DCC road. And what would happen in that scenario is then with this project or any projects in the community, those DCCs could be accessed for further upgrade to the roadway, in addition to the amenity contribution that's received.
Councillor Boot?
Yes, may I ask one other question?
Go ahead.
This reminded me kind of what when Councillor Holmes was speaking. So staff is continuing to negotiate with a developer to determine the amenity contribution. At what point, I know that it came up on I think it was October 25th when we had that other meeting. At what point will there be some direction from council on what the percentage should be for the amenity contributions?
We'll be looking at that when Linda's back. We'll be
Okay.
having that discussion with council. We may be having discussions with the developer, but ultimately, the negotiation is actually with council. So we're working on this component, but ultimately that discussion and finalization will take place with council.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, looking at the road and sidewalks from a future repairs and maintenance perspective, tried to identify what additional assets the district would be taking on in the long term with the upgrades to the roadway. An increase in asphalt width of about 900 square meters, increased sidewalk length of about 870 meters, and additional retaining walls. This was a highly subjective estimate of 650 vertical square meters. Just looking at, that's based on the initial cost estimate that we did to identify where there's potential locations where there could be retaining walls needed to get some type of a quantification for this estimate. So these would impact the future replacement investment that would be required by the district. One way to look at this is that the annual depreciation costs for these additional infrastructure components would be about $9,400 per year. That's looking at asphalt over a 25-year life and the sidewalk and retaining walls over a 60-year life. However, by upgrading the road now to a higher standard, it would delay the upcoming or the future mill and overlay project that would be required for Latimer and Solly. That would be sometime in the next 10 plus years. So it would be upgrading a road prior to that investment of repair. So it would delay that cost, but you would then in the long term be taking on larger infrastructure that you would have to replace in the future. Okay.
Okay, good.
Next section, looking at roadway snow removal and sanding. The district has about 145 kilometers of paved roadway that we currently maintain for snow removal and sanding. Our budget attributable to roads is about $265,000 per year. Therefore, to look at the operational cost of the 1.1 kilometers from the highway to this site, it would be approximately $2,000 per year as far as roadway sanding and snow removal, just to give council an idea. So any service level increase to this roadway, it just gives you an idea on where the magnitude of cost would be.
Good.
Okay, question? Next, sidewalk snow removal. As I noted, there would be about 870 meters of sidewalk that would be added based on the proposed plans now. There's currently 230 meters of sidewalk that exist on Solly. The additional 870 meters would be comprised of sidewalk in front of private properties as well as in front of public spaces. And so as far as from a snow removal standpoint, of the 870 meters, the district would be responsible to remove snow on about 180 of those meters, and 690 would fall in front of private properties where the responsibility for snow removal would go on the property owners. So from an operational cost perspective, the district currently removes snow from about 11.4 kilometers of sidewalk within the district. The addition of 180 meters would be about a 1.6% increase. So the snow removal budget from 2017 for sidewalk snow removal was about $29,000. So a 1.6% increase would equate to about $500.
Thank you. Councillor Boot.
I have a couple of backwards questions from where we are right now.
Sure.
The snow removal and sanding, we all recognize that there are areas of Summerland that are kind of first priority, schools and hospital and things. Well, we don't really have a hospital anymore, but I'm just wondering if with this increased number of people living in a concentrated area, if that will move Solly, which already has its challenges in snowy weather, if it will move it somewhat up on the priority list?
The way the bylaw speaks right now is that school bus routes on school days are the highest priority, and then it's collectors and areas where there's steep roadways. So Solly currently falls within the steep roadway area. So moving it to a collector, it would still be on that priority 2 range.
Okay. Does a school bus come up there, do you know, Councillor Holmes?
It goes on Latimer. I think it comes up
Okay.
solely just to Latimer, then it goes over to Peach Orchard.
Oh, it crosses at Latimer, yeah. Okay.
So based on the policy, there wouldn't necessarily be a prioritization change, but if we were looking to increase the level of service on this section even by 50% from what we see now, then that would be 50% of the $2,000 for a 1.1 kilometer section, so about $1,000 increase for operations.
Okay, so thank you. So it already is kind of on level 2 priority.
Yeah.
Right, okay. And then my other question, assuming that 1,000 cars per day, based on the estimates here, will be traveling to and from the downtown core of Summerland. Has there been any consideration on what impact that will make on the parking downtown?
No, there has not.
1,000 cars a day is, even 200 cars a day is pretty significant for the size of our downtown and the parking that may or may not be available. I'm just wondering if there's any thought on that.
So to lead
impact.
that one just a little bit further, if those cars are parking around town, they're presumably accessing businesses downtown, correct?
Yeah, if they're not having to walk 3 kilometers to get there,
well,
but
this is the kind of problem
we do already have a parking issue downtown,
Yeah,
I would suggest.
I think the merchants would agree that having a difficulty servicing the number of customers coming in the door would be something they'd look forward to.
Well, I'm not arguing with you, Mr. Mayor. I was just asking the question if this is a consideration that has been made in when we're talking about this size of development. That's all.
Okay.
So it hasn't been considered?
No, not at this time.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Trainer.
Does the steepness of a road preclude it from being considered a collector route at all? Does the grade of a road, like if it's a certain degree, or
Percentage.
percent, then can it not be considered a collector route, or does that have anything to do with it?
So yeah, typically a collector would have, its design guidelines would have not as steep of a slope as a local road. With a local road, you'd be allowed to construct it steeper. So there are parameters that where a collector would, I guess, based on the existing conditions, we don't have hillside guidelines in our current subdivision development bylaw, but when we look at developments, we need to assess what's being proposed, what's constructible in the area, and bringing those forward, similar to other developments where we've looked on hillside developments, bringing forward what's feasible or reasonable to be constructed, and how that goes against the bylaw, and that would be handled through a DVP process on a new development. On an existing roadway like this, Dean, I don't know if you can speak to it on how that would assess or be dealt with.
The achievable level of standard, so you're not going to reconstruct the neighborhood, so you're going to work to the best standard you can obtain based on the existing conditions. So there will be a level of adjustment that'll take place. As was mentioned, we don't have hillside design guidelines in our bylaw at this point in time, but that's part of what's going on right now, is looking at having those bylaws updated. So there would be standards for steep slope roads in the future. But at this point, it'll be looking at the existing roadway and making the appropriate modifications to bring it up to as close to standard as we can.
So there's no standard right now for the grade of a road and whether it can become a collector route?
There is a standard for collector roads, but it doesn't envision them on hillside. It's a standard that was created many years ago, and it's based on not the current standards that are being used for hillside development, for example. So when we saw, for example, Hunter's Hill, when it came in and came to council for a variance, that was the grounds for that variance. If they were to develop to the standard we have now, it would have caused significant cuts and fills. They would have modified the side of the slope significantly. So in hillside areas, to reduce the modification of the slope and prevent the cut and fill and large retaining walls, There's a different standard that's being applied that predates our bylaw. So with the new and the modernized bylaw, we'll start to include some of those regulations.
Okay, I just have one final question. Do we know the grade of Sully?
Yeah, it was identified in the traffic report. I don't have it handy. I was just trying to pull it up now, so I can speak to
Okay.
it later, maybe in
Okay.
this report.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, next item was stormwater. Just to recap for council, as part of the stormwater design, it's required to have an on-site stormwater drainage system that's designed to handle the post-development 1 in a 100-year storm event, while retaining a maximum release rate equal to the pre-developed 10-year storm event. So basically, the difference between the post-development 1 in a 100-year storm and the pre-development 1 in 10-year storm, it's required that that volume of water be stored on site and released at a restricted rate into the downstream stormwater system. So based on that, although the duration of drainage that will be running through the existing stormwater system downstream will be increased, there's no significant impacts that have been identified that would cause any increase in operational costs from a stormwater perspective.
Okay. Oh, sorry, Councillor Booth.
Lots of questions tonight. I have a couple of questions with the stormwater. Drainage system designed to handle the post-development 100-year storm event. Does anybody know when our next 100-year storm event might take place?
You could have 2 in a row, Councillor Booth.
That's exactly where I'm getting at. We had one in 2006, which resulted in 4 landslides in Summerland. And my second question is, well, I guess that wasn't really, well, I guess it was a question. So my next question is, given that the construction is going to take some time, it's not going to happen in 6 months, there will be an extensive period of time where the soil is disturbed or devegetated or whatever you want to call that. If there happens to be even a moderately significant storm event, rain I'm speaking of, and it goes across land to the storage containers, it's going to pick up the water is going to pick up a fair bit of silt and other soil composition as it moves across it, because it'll be going fairly quickly. I'm wondering, I guess my first question is, does this water go from the storage containers, where does it go, directly into Okanagan Lake, or where does it go?
Yeah, so from the proposed on-site storage container, it would go into the existing storm system, which is just downstream on near Latimie and Gillespie, and it would make its way down to Lake Okanagan.
And so if it's filled with silt and other accumulation of soil composition, how is that going to settle out before it goes into the lake? Or are we going to see a considerable amount of silt go into the lake?
There's 2 separate systems that you're speaking to. During construction, there's a sediment and erosion control plan. When we're speaking to the stormwater plan, we're talking about when it's finished and build-out has taken place. The sediment and erosion control plan is what deals with the construction site and ensuring that exactly doesn't happen. So there's a sediment and erosion control plan that was provided to engineering earlier in this process, and there's more details that would be required to come if it goes further, as far as the master development agreement, how that's going to work. But for that exact reason, we do not want the water coming directly off the site and into our stormwater system and straight into the lake. So there's a sediment and erosion control plan and a filtering system that takes place on site to ensure the construction site during construction, so you don't get overland flow. And this is a critical thing with this particular site, and why we had this plan vetted very closely is the overland flow risk because of the aquifer below. We wanted to make sure that plan ensured that didn't take place. So the sediment and erosion control plan is a component that takes place during construction. This is speaking to how stormwater management is going to take place when the
After
construction
it's-
is finished.
Okay, so I apologize for that. I didn't realize there were two separate things. The stormwater, these tanks will be on the, I'm not very good with my directions, east, I guess, kind of on the east side of the construction site?
That's correct.
So on the lower side?
Correct.
And then during construction, those ones, where are those ones?
Well, the land
They're-
surface has a control plan for overland flow on the surface. So you're not going to be feeding into the storm system until you've built those first buildings. So what this site is different with our bylaws is we generally have stormwater directed to groundwater recharge, so going back into the ground. Because of the sensitivity of the site, it was chosen very early in this process to look at offloading the stormwater from the site and not returning it to groundwater.
So how does it get collected then? So that it doesn't go across the surface of the soil?
There's a whole series of plans that are shown within our packages. We
Okay.
can certainly go through them. They
Okay. I'll come
identify
and see
the ditching and
about
the
that.
weiring that takes place and how they keep the site from losing its water, having the water travel.
Okay, and the erosion and stuff?
That's
Okay.
correct.
Thank you. I apologize, I didn't realize there were two separate things.
That's great. And on the post-development side of things with this, with the storage tanks, there is a treatment unit that would be part of that would take care of sediment that you would see following construction once the tank is in use. That would collect sediment and oil and grease and not allow that to go downstream into the stormwater system.
Okay.
Councillor Barkman.
I would comment that these concerns are not unique to this development, and seems like the standards that we apply have continued to improve throughout the years from previous projects in the province in general. So I have confidence that the staff will be, providing the sufficient design to meet these concerns and the environmental standards that we have today.
Just asking.
Okay, anybody else? Go ahead, please.
Okay, next item was waste management and recycling. So looking at solid waste from this site. Currently, the district contracts out our waste and recycling collection for residential properties. The proposed development would not fall into the residential waste collection parameters, so it would be required to hire a private waste collector at their own expense to deal with waste management and recycling. If the private waste contractor hauled the garbage to the Summerland landfill, then we would see an increased, possibly some increased revenue in tipping fees, but there would also be some additional operational costs to deal with the additional waste as far as handling, compacting, and covering that material. So because there's so many different parameters, there's not really enough data to make a reasonable calculation to know if there would be any net gain or net revenue or net cost to the district. The intent of the landfill is to be revenue neutral, so that's what we would aim to do. From this, we would see an estimated 1.6 to 2.5 tons per week, looking at similar sized or similar developments in the district. What impact that would have in the long term is it would reduce our time until closure. So by approximately 1.7 to 2.5%. Based on that, looking at our closure time somewhere between 40 to 60 years, it could reduce the life of the landfill by approximately 1 year. So therefore, our closure and post-closure costs, when we look at that analysis, we would need to look at that potentially shorter duration and look how that what that means in terms of tipping fees and making sure that we're recovering those additional costs based on that shorter time frame to handle this additional waste that may be developed from this site.
Thank you. Next, where are you going? The recreation park? Councillor Booth, go ahead. Don't be shy. We've got lots of time.
Okay.
All night.
A couple more questions with the waste management. When you say increase the tipping fees, does that means to all of us?
Yeah.
Or would there be a special rate for the development, or
It's just volume.
it's across, like, all taxpayers?
Yeah, so what we would, that's what we look at in general is trying to identify when we're going to need to close a section of the landfill and look at those closure and post-closure costs and make sure that we're estimating that in our tipping fee so that we're accruing enough. So if there's, just as typical, just as population increase and more garbage accumulation would slowly take away the capacity of that service and sort of ramp up or increase the time of when those costs would be incurred. It would, whenever you see an increase in population that we're looking to see here, 1,000 people potentially on a development, whether that was in one development or across the board, it would have the same long-term impact on our landfill.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Peak?
If I may, we presently put a portion of money away every year towards those closure costs. I don't remember what they are, whether it's, David, is it 24,000 or?
No, it's more than that. It's at least 50, but a lot of it, sorry, it is at least $50,000 a year. However, that's the set amount, based on how the landfill operations go. If there are surpluses, those amounts also get allocated to that reserve fund.
So it can change from year to year?
It can change from year to year, correct.
But it is something that we assess as we go along?
It's a component of our tipping fees, is what he's saying before, right?
Yes.
Thank you, David.
Yep. Okay. Next, Mr. Johnson, or?
Okay, no,
Okay, go ahead.
So in regards to recreation, staff had some conversations about what adding 1,000 residents would look like. Undoubtedly, there would be some overall impact on recreational costs, as more people will be using the pools, the trails, the parks, etc. However, during these discussions, staff does not believe this increased capacity will lead to capital facility upgrade requirements if current service levels are maintained. There may be programming changes that may need to be addressed, or possibly keeping a facility open a little longer here and there to accommodate, but no major capital upgrades are anticipated due to this development. So based on these two expectations, and considering the district's overall recreation budget in 2017 was approximately $1.6 million, we're actually anticipating that the per resident recreation cost will decrease from $138.55 currently to approximately $127.57 per resident. Now, again, these calculations are assuming that current service levels will be maintained at the current status quo. There may need to be increases to certain programs due to this increased capacity, which in turn would increase overall costs. However, without knowing which programs and which facilities they're in, to try to quantify this is just not practicable. So, any questions on recreation?
Councillor Boo.
Much like the money that we set aside for our landfill closure, and I know that's legislated, I'm wondering if we do the same kind of thing for recreational facilities. I think that most people understand that our pool is aging and will need a major renovation or replacement.
We do not specifically earmark funds for individual assets. We set aside funds for capital replacement as a whole. So we do that within each fund, the water, the sewer, and the electrical funds. We have capital replacement reserves, and we have the same within the general fund. We have a kind of an overall general capital replacement fund, but we don't earmark specific X amount of dollars for the pool or Y amount for this trail or that. It's a big pool of funds.
So might I ask another question? This might be for Mr. Strachan. With our asset management plan, are facilities not included in that?
Yes, they are.
Yes.
But they're not separated out?
So
Like it's just...
There's a couple of things going on. One is, yes, asset management is going to look at all of our pieces of infrastructure and cost to replace and so forth, but also we're looking at our recreation, Parks and Recreation Master Plan.
Yeah.
So there may be things that come forward. These are just the best they could do at this point in time based on what we have in plan right now, which wouldn't include additional capital. But like you mentioned, out of that planning process or that asset management process, a new pool could be identified. And then we would go through that process similar to talking about with roads, about looking at which projects are DCC projects, what projects should be added to that DCC bylaw, and then development would contribute towards those as part of that function. But right now, we're working to try and give some context around recreation, because it is an important asset in the community.
Right.
And what we have in plan right now doesn't include any new infrastructure, but I think we all realize that we are going to need some new infrastructure in the near future, especially with around items like the pool.
Yeah. Sorry, I realize that that's not part of the development. I just wanted to make sure that we were covering that.
It does have an impact, though.
Yeah.
That's what it,
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Strachan.
go ahead.
I just wanted to jump back to roads for a second, if we could, just with regards to the grades. So from Cook Avenue to Bristow Road, the existing average grade is about 12%. That's a stretch of about 100 meters. Then from Bristow to Broad Street, it's an average grade of about 10%, which is over a distance of about 170 meters. So that's the steepest section of Solly from the top of the hill down to there.
Good, thank you.
Okay, next item was transit. Currently, there are no anticipated changes to the current transit routes or bus stop locations as a result of this development. Therefore, there's no anticipated operational cost increases. One item of note is that the developer has identified and considered possibly a private shuttle system that may be provided from the development for the residents, which we would assume would connect to the existing routes and transit system that exists within Summerland, so that there would be no modifications to the existing structure that's in place.
Good, thank you.
Okay, so looking at the electrical utility, in order to try to estimate what the annual expenses and revenues would be for this facility, we looked at a similar billing structure for different types of facilities within the district. Specifically, we looked at Angus Place and the Summerland Senior Village. We found that the proposed market housing units, so those would be building A, B, and E of this development, would be captured within the district's residential electricity rate structure. Now, that structure consists of a per unit base fee plus residential consumption and KVA demand charge. The proposed independent living and memory care facilities, which are buildings C and D, would be billed based on the rate code of a primary power less than 500 KVA demand. This rate consists of a per unit base fee, so that's one per building, plus the consumption and the KVA demand. So using the historical data from the above noted comparable facilities, we were able to extrapolate based on the amount of units provided by the developer and calculated that estimated electrical revenues to be $433,500. Now, the direct costs to provide this power to the district are estimated to be $347,110. So that would generate net income of approximately $86,395. During the course of conversations, we have been asked as staff whether or not the current agreement we have with Fortis BC contains any thresholds, limits that, if met, would increase the overall cost of purchasing electricity to the district. Now, in reviewing the agreement with our consulting electrical engineer, we found that there is no such threshold. However, based on the overall load of this development, the district's peak factor would increase, thereby adding additional monthly demand charges of approximately $45,300. That's monthly. Now, the district's current electrical bylaw does not have provisions to bill back, or sorry, the district's current electrical bylaw does have provisions to bill back for a portion of this excess demand. However, the way it's currently written, we could only recoup $34,000 monthly. So there would be a monthly shortfall of approximately $11,300 that the district's electrical utility would have to absorb into operations. Now that works out to $135,600 annually. In conversations with our engineer, he did note that the district could review and make changes to our current bylaw, our electrical bylaw, that would allow us to recuperate the full amount of this excess demand that's put on by this one facility. By making this change, it would eliminate any of those shortfalls that would have to be taken into operations by the district. We did have some discussions with utilities staff. They noted there could be some additional costs in regards to extra callouts, meter exchanges. However, these events, they're quite subjective and they can vary drastically. So therefore, we haven't provided a cost estimate for this. We have provided a cost estimate in talking with my finance staff. Annual postage would be approximately $5,500. We do mail out utility invoices monthly. So for the 415 units, we're assuming, now of course this $5,500, it's assuming that not one person in this development signs up for electronic billing. So it's kind of the high-end potential cost. So that's it for electrical. If there's any questions.
Yeah, Councillor Peak had a question a minute ago.
Yeah, really more of a statement than a question. When you've identified a shortfall to an opportunity that you could make a correction on by reviewing the bylaw, then it makes sense to review the bylaw whether or not this particular proposal goes through. So I would suggest that we would review the bylaw for rewrite.
And it is something that finance staff have noted and that we do want to have a look at the electrical bylaw.
Very good.
So, yeah, it sounds to me like we should be doing that anyway as we are growing in various aspects in the community. We don't want to be caught by that if it's strictly a bylaw, the way it's worded and the way it's put together. Councillor Holmes.
I just wonder if you could explain to me how the build back for the excess demand for the peak factor actually works. Does that mean that the residents of the development would end up paying higher electricity rates than other residents? Or I don't understand how that works.
So if we were to bill back the full excess demand?
Or whatever, like the 408,000 a year regarding the peak factor there. 408. Well, you said the district will incur
34,000.
No, 408,000 annually. See that number?
Sorry, I'm just.
So provisions in the district's electrical bylaw allows the district to bill back directly to the development approximately 34,000 a month.
Yep.
So I could you just explain to me how that works? How, if it's billed back, so who pays that 34,000 a month?
It's based within the specific rate structure. So at the beginning, it was noted that it would be deemed those two components would be deemed a rate code of primary power less than 500 kVA demand. So within that specific rate code, there's three components of the billing. There's the consumption, there's the base fee, and then there's the demand. So the demand, the way it's currently worded, is it's based on 75% of the demand of that facility. By changing the wording to incorporate to say that it would be 100% would negate that inconsistency. Because right now, we pay Fortis 100% of that demand, but we bill back on that rate code 75%.
To everybody?
To everybody in that rate code.
Okay. Another question?
It's not easy to follow, but go ahead.
Yeah, I get it. Okay. How will these buildings be heated? Is it gas? Electricity? Do we know?
Currently, they're proposing electric heat for the buildings. So the peak load of 4.1 megawatts is based on that. So that's the numbers that we've received through the design process from the developer and their electrical engineers.
Okay. Councillor Peak?
Are we encouraging any green design or whatever?
Pardon, sir?
Are we encouraging green design in whatever ways that would be applicable to buildings of these sizes?
Yeah, so when we initially had the discussions, we asked if gas heat was being looked at or other alternatives, and to date, we haven't had any further discussion on that.
So is there there's no thoughts, particularly, say, solar particularly going on this building, or does that be part of our overall solar thoughts?
There hasn't been any discussion
Yeah, okay.
specific on those items.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Carlson.
Just a comment on that. I note that renewable electricity in British Columbia is pretty much all of our electricity. That's why we call it hydro, whereas gas is a natural gas, which remains a fossil fuel. So it's a conversation that all the different things I'm looking at through here are thinking about the sustainability of this and how we need to ensure that if any project going forward to any scale in this community needs to be built, recognizing that climate change is happening and that things need to be adapted. When you own 2,000 cars a day, that may not be what the future holds. We don't yesterday's numbers aren't what is going to happen in 10 or 20 years from now when this or other projects like this are being looked at and fulfilled. And I think that needs to be recognized. But yeah, my comment on electrical, just the numbers are out there, and electricity in BC remains very green.
Councillor Barkle.
Yes, I had a similar question or point or something. Is when you asked suggested natural gas, is that suggesting that it's a greener alternative? Because I kind of assumed that electricity was the greenest alternative, and to Councillor Carson's point, that's, yeah, I mean, if you read the press these days, half those cars are going to be electric cars in a very short period of time. It's kind of amazing.
Yeah, the question was asked based on looking at the peak electrical load that they were proposing and looking at how or if they looked at ways that could be reduced. Not necessarily comparing it as a green alternative for heating, but just say in general, there was an increase in the demand or the design peak loads that had come through the process, and it had increased. And so the question was, have you looked at ways of reducing that load? So.
And I think for the community as a whole, though, we're all pretty aware of our efforts towards a solar array, which at some point in time, if its scale is such, will affect that peak demand situation. That's the beauty of having your own source. So, you know, as Councillor Carlson said, things change so rapidly right now. I mean, the Chinese are changing the world with respect to vehicles. We're going to see huge changes in what's available for cars, for example, pretty soon. So very hard to predict. Go ahead, who's up?
Okay, so the final revenue piece of this presentation is in regards to the water and the sewer utility. Estimating these revenues for the proposed development have been calculated using 2017 rates multiplied by the proposed number of units. Water consumption, we based that off of a similar type of facility in town and extrapolated over the number of units. So the estimated water and sewer revenues from this proposed development are approximately $253,500. If council's looking at the detailed calculations in the report, you will note that it is different. The figures are different from the June 26th, 2017 information that was received. And of course, that's because the unit numbers have changed. All the other factors have stayed the same. So if there's no other questions, I'll turn it over to Chris to look at the direct costs there.
Okay, first one, water treatment. The total volume of water that we treated in 2016 was about 7.6 million cubic meters, which is an average of about 21,000 cubic meters per day. The actual demand varies roughly throughout the year, approximately 3,000 cubic meters per day in winter and upwards of 75,000 cubic meters per day in the summer due to the additional irrigation demand. The additional maximum day demand that's proposed from this development, looking at a population of about 1,000 people, would be about 500 cubic meters per day, which would be approximately 180,000 cubic meters per year, which equates to about a 2.4% increase on the demand at the water treatment plant. So with that in mind, the total operational costs related to water treatment for items that would fluctuate with demand, such as the amount of chemical that's used in the treatment process, chlorine, processed sand, and power. The total operational budget for those items is about $450,000 per year. So keeping in mind the 2.4% increase, that would equate to an approximate operational cost increase of $11,000 per year. Okay. Next is the wastewater treatment plant. So looking at a similar process to evaluate this, the average peak daily flows recorded in 2014 to 2016 were about 2,700 cubic meters per day of flow into the plant. The capacity is about 4,000 cubic meters per day. The 2,700 cubic meters per day is from a service population of about 6,200 people because the entire district isn't serviced by sewer. So that translates into about 440 liters per person per day in wastewater. Based on the projected population for the development, this would look at increasing our flows into the plant by about 440 cubic meters per day, which is about a 16% increase. So looking at the operational costs of the waste plant for items that would fluctuate with increased demand flowing in would be the treatment materials, chemicals, and power. That's roughly $250,000 per year. So a 16% increase in flows that would affect those costs would equate to about $40,000 per year increase in operations. Okay, last one was lift stations. So this development directly flows towards the Butler Street lift station. The anticipated increase in flows to that lift station directly are about 37%. The total operational costs related to the Butler Street lift station for items that would again fluctuate with increased flows to it, which would be gas, power, and labor to clean the sumps within the station, are about $8,500 per year. So a 37% increase on those costs would be about $3,200 per year increase in operations. Any questions?
If I'm not mistaken, within the last couple of years, we were concerned about flows at the wastewater treatment plant. We were running approximately 50% of capacity. And we were looking at, having some problems because we didn't have enough flow, if I remember correctly.
So on average, we're operating at about 2,700 cubic meters per day based on a 4,000 cubic meter per day capacity. Where we do see concerns is during wet weather events, and especially like one instance that I identified in a previous report was during the flood event this year, where people were pumping their groundwater and their sumps directly into the wastewater system, increasing the flows unnecessarily.
Right.
Throughout the system, though, there are points of inflow or infiltration that we do see increased flows just during those wet weather events that over time we could look at processes or studies to identify where those sources are coming in and look at mitigating and reducing those flows. But in general, our capacity at our waste plant is well above what we're seeing for daily flows.
Okay, thank you.
So just to summarize all of the data there, within the general fund, so with the property taxes and all of the expenses, we're anticipating from this development a surplus of $283,850 from property taxation. In the utility side, the way the bylaw and everything is currently written, we're actually anticipating a $54,000 loss right now within the electrical utility. Now with water and sewer, we're anticipating just under $200,000 of net fees for a net within the utilities of $145,200. So in total, we're looking at $429,000 of surplus funds that this development could potentially bring the district. And these,
Thank you.
of course, are estimated
Yeah.
numbers.
Any questions, council? Did a hell of a job. Thank you. No questions?
Part 4.
Excellent report. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, we got to go through DCC reserves.
I wasn't going to spend a whole lot of time on this section. Basically,
I think it's important, though.
Basically, so we have briefly discussed at the October 25th Committee of the Whole meeting, as well as the November 14th Council report, have all touched on DCCs and how they contribute. Neither of those presentations, however, highlighted the district's current DCC balances. So that was one of the main reasons that we had put this section in, just so council was aware where we were currently sat. So our current DCC levels at December 31st, 2016 were $2.99 million. So if we look at this proposed development, it would double what our DCC balances are currently at. The report does speak to all of the different DCCs and the different projects that can be, DCC funding can be spent on, but I don't think we really need to touch on that.
Any questions? Councillor Barkle?
As someone who has to write reports and stuff, I really appreciate how much work went into this report. I think it's an excellent job. It answers all of my questions. People can say, what about this, what about that? But I think you've gone down to a level of materiality that's pretty small, and any other questions were probably not terribly material in the whole thing. Yes, when I went to business school, one of the things that I remember from very early in the process was you never have all the answers. You never have all the information you want, or else you'd never make a decision, or it would be prohibitively expensive. But what we have here is a pretty good part of the package. I do have one question, though. If I could go back to the tax revenue, and you got your information from the BC Assessment Authority and related it to a building in Penticton. But when I look at the approximate assessed value divided by the number of units, and only sort of looking at the market housing, I get numbers of, an assessed value of 260,000, 250,000, in that range for the assessed value of those units. And that seems a bit on the low side. I would expect the assessed value would wind up being, to start with, what they sold for. Could you maybe sort of either reconcile that or have another look at that for me? Because
I think the one thing that you may not have taken into account in your calculations is in the data that's in front of you now, the square footages for each building contain a component of parking, which normally if you're looking at an assessed value for a condominium or a two-story market house, they normally don't take that into account. So when we put together this information, we had an earlier conversation with Councillor Holmes where there was approximately 200,000 square feet difference between what you see now in front of you as opposed to what you saw in front of you in June. We took that square footage and basically extrapolated out to each building to get a fair comparison of what the overall square footage of the entire development would look like, as opposed to just having building A, B, C, D, E, and then a line that said parking. It's just the way the information's shown.
I'm not sure if that really works for me with, and I'm not sure how BC Assessment Authority assesses buildings like this, but if a unit was sold for $400,000, wouldn't that be the value that for that unit that the BC Assessment Authority would base their taxes on?
Mr. Straka may have a comment.
It's a tricky question, and it's one that you notice with your own assessment, I'm sure, is that the assessment doesn't necessarily reflect the market price at any given time. So the BC assessment numbers are conservative in some ways to that, so they don't directly reflect market pricing being achieved. So if units are selling for 400,000, that doesn't necessarily mean that the next year's assessment would come in at 400,000. There's a level of caution that comes with that. And in this process, we carried that level of caution through, in that we didn't select necessarily the highest value, tried to find a comparative. But we didn't want to scale this beyond what the future market may have, which could be higher, could be lower. We don't know at this point, so we wanted to be somewhat conservative in how we carried that forward to make
I recognize that
estimates.
assessed values are not necessarily your market value. I mean, people often pay 10, 20% more than assessed value. And so, I don't know, I just would I have to take it to say that this is at least a very conservative value. Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, Councillor Carlson, I'm sorry.
I'd like to bring the resolution forward if no one else has
Go
any
ahead, sure.
questions. We'll move that report titled 13-610 Banks Crescent, dated today, be accepted for information.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Peak, thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Booth?
I'll save my questions. I'll ask Gina. Make
Okay,
some time to
thank
meet
you.
with you. I'm a little confused.
All in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. None opposed. Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen. That was a body of work. I recognize, as Councillor Barthel just stated, he's probably more privy to the kind of detail and time that takes, but Councillor Carlson.
Yeah, I'm going to excuse myself.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Where are we at now? Okay, 12.9. Cultural Development Committee appointment. That's Angelique.
Hi, thank you. As council will know, the Cultural Development Committee has been formed and will be having its first meeting on December 5th at 4 p.m. And this report is to respectfully ask for a council appointment to that committee.
I'll volunteer.
Okay, Councillor Holmes jumped right up. We all stepped back and there he was. Councillor Barkle.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Holmes, or move the motion that Councillor Holmes be appointed to the Cultural Development Committee.
Okay. Seconder, please. Councillor Trainer, thank you. All in favor?
Thank you.
The railway just jumped right in there. Okay. New business, council procedure bylaw amendment 217-37. Who's looking after that? Jeremy?
Me,
Mr.
yes.
Deniger.
So this is a simple adjustment to the procedure bylaw to take account of the changed date of the next election.
Okay. Someone like to bring that forward, please? Councillor Holmes, Councillor Peak, seconder. All in favor? Thank you. Carries. Okay, bylaws 14.1. Nixon Road OCP for adoption. Someone like to bring that forward? Councillor Holmes?
I'll move that official community plan amendment 5418 Nixon Road bylaw number 2017-022 be adopted.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Trainer, thank you. All in favor? Thank you very much. Okay. 14.2. Zoning bylaw text amendment. Mr. Deniger?
Yeah, that's simply adoption of the one discussed at the last meeting regarding carriage houses.
Right. Okay, Councillor Holmes?
I move that zoning bylaw text amendment bylaw number 2017-032 be adopted.
Okay, seconder, please. Councillor Booth, thank you. All in favor? Motion carries. None opposed. Thank you very much. 14.3. Whose dealing was that? Councillor
She'll
Payne.
do it, she'll do it.
Oh, go ahead.
I just have to excuse myself from this one
Oh,
because
okay.
I work for the Summerland Credit Union.
Forgot about you.
Yeah, that's
And it's
right.
related to that. Thanks.
You're coming back though, huh?
Don't go for long.
Councillor Booth.
I'd like to move the two resolutions as written, please,
Okay, thank you.
regarding Kelly Avenue.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Counselor Peace, thank you. Okay, all in favor? Motion carries. Can I ask her to come back now? Okay.
Mr. Strachan, why isn't the Elliott Street one in, we passed it last time?
So these bylaws have to go to Ministry of Transportation because they're within 800 meters of a controlled intersection or include an OCP amount. So I had to go to highways before council could consider adoption.
Oh, I see.
Elliott didn't fall into that category, so it was adopted at the last council meeting.
And that shows us the MOT approval there.
That's correct.
Yeah.
These are only the ones that have to go for MOT approval.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Council reports, starting with Councilor Trainer.
I have nothing to report tonight.
Thank you. Councilor Barco.
I don't have anything to report, but I just noted something that when I was first on council, I used to be in the habit of reading the whole motion, and now I'm very much happy to say as written.
Very good. I'm happy too. Councilor Booth.
Just a couple of things. I attended the Building Sustainable Communities, well, I was only able to get there for one day last week, held in Kelowna. And I had the chance to speak with some staff from the Ministry of Agriculture. They asked if I would bring back a bunch of these pamphlets. It's brand new. It's called The Countryside in You, Understanding What It Means to Live in a Farming Community. Ministry of Agriculture. So I'm not sure who I should ask about having these put out. I have maybe 8 or 10 of them.
I can take care of that.
Okay. So I'll bring the rest some other time. Yeah. And then we've just been busy at RDOS with budget, and we had a legislative services, well, part of one anyways, on last Thursday. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Holmes. No report. Councilor Peak.
Yeah, I attended the skateboard park meeting, as did Councillor Holmes. The Business After Business at Union Kitchen. I'd like to commend the high school. Dan Dinsmore brought in a program with the cooperation of the high school on entrepreneurs, and there were 4 or 5 entrepreneurs there from the secondary school. That was very nice to have some discussion with those young people. Also attended the Trail of the Okanagan and the SOX ribbon cutting for the new building, which other councillors and the mayor went to as well. And also that evening I went to the KVR board meeting as well. And I would like to express my own congratulations to the Chamber of Commerce for a wonderful Festival of Lights evening.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, we have an opportunity for the public to bring some comments forward. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Diana Smith. Diana, is it on? Am I on? Okay. Diana Smith, Solly Road. In discussion with the fire chief, did he have any concerns of post-construction with regards to primary access, secondary access, if there is a secondary access, and evacuation during storm or whatever?
During my conversations with him, no. My conversations were strictly related to financial matters. Those types of questions didn't come up.
Is anybody going to be speaking with the fire department with the increase of that height, 7 stories above ground? Please, yes.
So there was an analysis that was conducted in 2016 with the building inspectors as well as the fire chief around going to the 6 to 7 story construction height and how that would be dealt with.
Right.
And there was a series of conditions and modifications made to the site plan. And those get carried through to covenants that get registered on title as far as where there's required to be on-site fire stations as well as, equipment stations as well as access to water. So those have been reviewed with the fire chief.
And what about access to by the fire trucks?
That's correct. And the two access points have been reviewed. In the detailed design work, if this was to move forward as a part of the building permit, all of those components are re-reviewed and are required to have approval based on the bylaws as well as the code requirements.
And evacuation of potentially, 600-700 extra cars in a state of emergency?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor and Council, Donna Wall, Latimer Avenue. The much anticipated report from the Director of Development Services does, in some areas, get very specific. For example, the fire equipment repair rooms and the maintenance cost breakdown over a 15-year period will only cost us $3,200 per year. Added retaining walls for the 700 metres of Solly and 300 metres of Latimer South will be roughly 650 vertical square metres. Just costing just under $9,500 annually to maintain. I did notice a couple of things that did not seem to be in the report anywhere. The biggest thing is the fish hatchery. The fact that, A, they haven't even agreed to this development, but also there's the potential loss of $100 million annually to the lower interior region and unemployment of 12 people if we lose our fish hatchery. Another aspect that there doesn't seem to be any sort of consideration being taken into account is possible damage of foundations to houses and properties. Now, I've checked on Google Earth, and conservatively, if we just go with the properties directly affected by any roadworks of that 700 metres of Solly and the 300 metres of Latimer, and those houses bordering the gully itself, we're looking at approximately 45 houses involved. And again, I think conservatively, if we were to say $25,000 worth of foundation damage per house, some are going to be more, some are going to be less, but that would come to $1,125,000. There's been no money set aside for upgrades of Northern Latimer, and yet we know for sure that this will have to be done. On Northern Latimer and those bordering Northern Latimer, including some up on Lipset Crescent that have very steep clay cliffs behind them, there's a total of 19 more houses. Add the damage costs that could be done to those houses, direct impacts to widening that part of the road. We have another $447,000 odd. Plus there's the actual cost of the upgrades, which, as I say, haven't even been calculated in for Northern Latimer.
Can you wrap your comments up, please, Mrs. Wong?
Okay, I will skip a bit. There's a staircase that they're still planning on building that if anyone was to slip or fall, there could be serious injury and lawsuit to the city of Summerland. If the hatchery was to be contaminated with silt and could kill all the fish within hours, there is a chance that the province could actually turn around and sue the city of Summerland for loss of revenue. One other matter, in regard to the lack of respect in this town, I could not agree with you more, Mr. Mayor. However, I would like to point out that in response to a newspaper article that was about disrespect at the last council meeting, if anyone reviews the tapes, and I reviewed it carefully twice, during the whole Banks Crescent components, there was not a sound from the audience at all. I'd just like to point that out, and it's too bad that our newspaper editor isn't here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, press. Susan, yes.
I have two questions, but I assume that the reason for the change of the dates in the municipal election is for the convenience of snowbirds who usually leave in November, or maybe I can say, why change it?
It's a provincial.
It is a provincial decision.
Oh, so it's a provincial.
Oh, it's nothing to do with
requirement.
us.
Okay.
Provincial change.
Okay.
That's provincial wide.
Do you know why that was done?
I have no idea particularly. It may have been that.
Might have been.
I think because it's for northern BC.
Okay.
Too much snow up there in November.
Okay. Oh, because in the past, I have heard comments locally about people, being away during that time, and that they...
No, this is a provincial thing. It's been talked about probably for the last couple of years, and they brought it in for this coming election. Yeah.
And then the second question I have, and this is with regard to your report and your discussion of the, say, sometimes less than civil discussion.
Yes.
Comments that go on and so on. What authority do mayors have in dealing with those situations?
We have considerable powers which I choose not to use most of the time. I can ask the audience, I can actually adjourn the meeting, I believe. I haven't looked into the real details. I can ask people to leave. I can have the RCMP here and have people removed if necessary. But I've really, you know, it's a fine line. I think people need the opportunity to express their emotions and passions about a particular subject. I don't object to that at all. What I object to is the tone that took place. The last meeting was absolutely appalling. And I had a number of people email me, a number of people phone me and saying, what are we going to do? When are you going to start controlling the meeting better? That was part of it. And so I decided that if I didn't do something, I was actually going to be an enabler of that activity. So I felt I had to say something. And you know, it absolutely shouldn't be necessary. And as you may read the article that'll be in this week's paper, which is in far more detail than my report, but this town has taken a stand against bullying. And what I've seen in these meetings, it doesn't appear to bother people that have been here. So, you know, we need to stand against bullying anywhere and any type. And particularly in this meeting, and the kind of activity that's being aimed specifically at me is appalling. I mean, I know it can happen. I really wasn't going to say a heck of a lot about it. I've let it lie, but things kept building, and there's a point where the rhetoric and the mixing of that rhetoric starts to bring in fringe elements that will do just about anything. And so, you know, all over the world we're seeing things that happen, and there's no need for that to happen in this community. So I felt I had to say something, and I just wasn't going to put up with it any longer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, could I have a motion to adjourn, please? Councillor Boot, Councillor Peak, thank you. All in favor? Thank you.